cloud. But all right, guys, thank you for joining me today. I'm looking forward to getting started. My name is Kit Fucile, and I am a coach with the locker room, impact coach with the locker room. And our job, our role in life is to coach agents and professionals, leaders to be the best that they can be, serve their clients, serve their agents, and really help folks tap into all possibilities. So today, in effort to do that, I'm going to bring to you a topic that is extremely exciting for me as a coach, and hopefully for you as an agent, will give you some things to think about moving forward and how you can step into your greatness. So are you guys all with me?
Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And you can't see it. And it's gone.
You'll get there.
It's down. Isn't that what happened? There we go. Let's see if this will work. Hopefully. Bear with me, kids. And it was all up there right beforehand. So isn't this what happens when you have technology, right? All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Can you see the beast?
Yes.
Me.
Look at that. There you go.
And again, so thank you guys so much for being here, and I look forward to this journey together. So let me ask you, what does the beast sound like within you? When you are really wanting to bring out the energy and an excitement in you, the moving forward, the conquer, what does it sound like? Does it sound like this guy?
It's okay.
Or does it kind of sound like this guy? And I know that isn't necessarily the loudest beast we could find, but I'm going to ask you, even if you mute yourself for a second, to tell me what is the beast within you. If you're going to be the beast, and I'm going to explain what the beast is, it's actually an acronym we're going to play with today. But what does that sound like? All right.
That's the beast impression we can do.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks for playing with me on that. But yes, bringing some energy to it. And I associated it with a lion very specifically because lion in sometimes in biblical, sometimes in other cultures and religions, the lion represents leadership of the wild kingdom. And it's often associated in literature and again, biblically, with self-control, personal strength, courage, balance, and wisdom. So if you could take a second and just think, what does the word leadership, and I just visually referenced the lion for myself, but what is the word leadership for you? I'll share with you, for me, it's an attitude. When I'm stepping leadership, sometimes that attitude has to change depending on what role I'm in. But for me, leadership is an attitude. So take a second and just, if you would, just write down a word that leadership encompasses for you.
That's a long word.
It can be a long word. It can be a long word. It can. But I'm asking you to narrow it down, even if it's a couple words, just a phrase or something that you feel like within me leadership is.
Got it.
Got it? Bob, you got one?
Yes.
Okay. Because we as leaders, who do we have to lead ourselves before, whether we're in life, we're leading other people? Because we're all leaders, either by default or choice.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Who do we have to lead first?
Me.
Yeah, ourselves. Ourselves. So if you don't mind sharing with me, what word did you choose?
I did influence and vision. Those are the two words that I use because, you know, good old Maxwell's statement, leadership is influence. You can't have leadership without influence. And then vision, I think, leaders see before other people see and go further than other people go. Otherwise, they can't lead them anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So true. Thank you, Bob. Beth, what'd you have?
I had two of, as Bob did, and mine are engage and inspire.
Ah,
Whether I'm leading myself or somebody else, both of those pieces come into play.
perfect. Thank you. Awesome. So now please write I am in front of those. So you each had two statements. I am. Leadership, whether it's the definition that you gave, leadership is a belief. It's a belief in the vision, the belief in the engagement. Leadership is a belief. If we don't believe in ourselves as leaders, are we going to be able to effectively lead others?
No.
No. So the internal belief system that we have creates our ability to be a leader. So the acronym I'm going to share with you today is the BEAST. And what that stands for and what we're going to go through today are beliefs, where beliefs come from, what their purpose is, how they actually create energy and emotion. When we have energy and emotion, we can step into awareness and action. That awareness and action actually creates our state and our story.
Interesting.
And when we're in our state and story, that determines what we believe our truth and transformation can be. A lot of words. So today we're going to just discover on the surface level, and moving forward, I have a team of coaches that can help you go deeper into this should you like to do that, and should you be inspired to do so. If leadership was if you're inspired to, we have some resources for you. So let's start with beliefs. Beliefs emit energy. Beliefs are ideas that we believe are true. I believe this, therefore it's my truth. And ideas and beliefs are incredible because they invent products. A belief in an idea coming from internal creates products, builds businesses, creates movements. Movements are created from beliefs. Beliefs actually change our world. I will not go into politics today, but we have seen over the last number of years, 4 years, changes in beliefs in our internal fiber, which has changed the world as we know it. Good, bad, or indifferent. So where do these beliefs come from? Beliefs come from our culture, our parents. They come from the education. They come from our faith. They come from experiences that we've had, peers who may have influenced us, and ever so prominent today. Our beliefs are being driven by media and social media. So if you think about, and I'll ask you just to think about one belief you had, and maybe looking at the screen and say, where did I get that belief? I'll just have you write that down. I'll share with you a belief that I was given, and it has served and not served me. And that's kind of our next set of conversations. My parents were of the generation that told me that I could be anything. I could be and do anything. My mother was one of those first Helen Reddy, for any of you who are of this generation, let woman roar. She can do, I mean, talk about roaring. She can do anything. It was a belief. Served me in many capacities, but to do anything also set me up for some challenges. So our beliefs emit energy out of us. They emit energy, and they create vibrations known as thoughts. So our belief become our thoughts, and thoughts therefore create emotion. Emotion is an interesting word. Emotion is derived out of one or two core places: fear and love. All emotions, those that have studied emotion, can take it down to the root that all emotions come out of either fear and love, and therefore results in our actions. And actions is a big word. Actions, execution, following through on things. And we all know, we have been told that long-term results in life are created by our actions we take every single day. I see Beth nodding. We've all heard that over and over and over again. And no matter how much passion one has for a topic or desire, internal desire, if it's not followed up with action, we have no results. Whether you want to earn more money, travel, lose weight, improve relationships, so forth and so on, if we don't take continuous action in any of those areas, where do we end up? Status quo. As humans, we are wired, and we have a deep and compelling urge to find the meaning and purpose in life and have a sense of spirit. That's how we were wired. We want the joy and happiness. We want to create and connect with others and appreciation of the mystery of life. Are you with me so far? So we want these things, and we also want the other things: to lose the weight, to do the this, to do too. And herein lies the battleground in our mind. Here lies the I want to, and I'll just use weight loss as we're today, February 1st, 2021. I can speculate for some of my audience that the resolutions have come and gone. And maybe we wanted things at the beginning of the year we set forth and we didn't take action for whatever reasons. And we're going to discuss those reasons, the tricky reasons in our mind momentarily. But the battle of our mind is wanting joy, happiness, whatever your definition of that is, care, connection, personal growth, all of those wants, needs, desires. And on the other side of our brain, where we fall short, and why people don't talk about this in seminars, I'll tell you, is because it doesn't sell tickets. It's not sexy. The why we don't actually achieve all of those things. Now, we may achieve a lot of them. We're all work in progress. Nobody has arrived. But why is it so many things that we try to accomplish, we kind of fall a little short on? Part of that is we don't want to be uncomfortable. We avoid change. Our brains have been wired to protect us. Therefore, we create habits of status quo. And we have what we're going to discuss and move into forward is these little characters, these cast of characters that keep us safe. The cast of characters that keep us safe and prevent us, in many cases, from taking action. It's a conundrum in our brain. And again, when you go to these wonderful rah-rah motivational seminars and they pump you up and create this roar within you, but they don't always tell you when the little characters raise their heads, how to have a conversation with them to say, I'm not paying attention to you because I'm really over here in joy and happiness. I'm going to just calm you down for a little while so you don't have control to stop me from being the best I can be. That doesn't sell tickets. So play with me here. Gentleman by the name of Shirzad, I'm mispronounced, Shamin, who wrote an incredible book called Positive Intelligence. And he took a combination of neuroscience, positive psychology, emotional intelligence, and he's a professor at Stanford, and he has wrote this incredible book taking all of the science and psychology and boiling it down to a cast of characters called saboteurs that make it a little more palatable and understandable for the, I'll say, the lay person like myself to understand that these cast of characters are actually created to protect us. They live in the root of fear because fear keeps us pulled back. And understanding this cast of characters gives us the ability to have what we call awareness. And awareness, and I'll say this more than once today, awareness is the first step in creating actions that can move us forward. Being able to ask ourselves, qualm, for instance, the judge, and say, is there another way? And we create some tools, and we'll talk about those tools a little bit further down the pipe. But first, I want to introduce you to the cast of characters. The first cast of characters is known as the judge. And everybody has a judge. The judge compels us to find faults with ourselves, faults with others, faults in conditions and circumstances. The judge creates stress, anxiety, shame, and anger. The judge also is known as the voice of tough love. Basically says, I'm going to be tough on you. I'm going to judge you. I'm going to put you there because if I don't, you won't do something. Or I will stop you from doing something because you're not worthy. I'm going to judge you. Here comes the gavel. It can be a rather destructive saboteur because if we live in judge and we have judgment of others, while we're in judgment, we cannot see creativity. Watching the beauty, and Bob, I think you mentioned that you're going to be taking your 3 and 4-year-olds out to one of your trips. Watching their beauty and creativity, which I know you will, and pure joy and happiness cannot exist if you are judging them. And to live in joy and happiness. So that judge might want to come up to play when we're in environments, but if we're looking at the environment, wanting to be through a lens of care and love and care, we cannot have that if our judge is talking to us. So having tools that quell the judge may be fruitful for all of us. The avoiders are second cast of characters. And I'd love it if, as I'm going through these, if you can take a second to say, yeah, I have a little of that guy. We all have some elements of each 10 of these cast of characters, and some are more prevalent in us than others. Some have a larger space in our head, and some only rent smaller spaces, but they all pay rent in one way or another. The second is called the avoider. And the avoider is one that tries to see the positive and the pleasant, hence the cheerleader. The positive and the present kind of to an extreme, and therefore chooses not to see or decides not to see some of the things that should be done. I see a lot of the avoider as I coach real estate professionals and growing their businesses when it comes to the topic of the IRS. They have a positive, we're making money, and they're avoiding the fact they owe. I've got some that owe in the 6 figures, but they're making money. And let me tell you, as the bottom line here says, it can result in the long term in huge interruptions, lots of arguments. But that positive person, when the avoider is there, avoids difficult and unpleasant tasks. It can sidestep things. It delays in things getting done. And it's a lie if we step into it. The third cast of characters is the controller. And the controller runs on an anxiety-based need to take control. And I love the fact that, hey, if you look in the little circle there, you see the controller. And if you've ever seen the folks that watch the play the video games, it kind of is a great visual where they're like, I've got to take control of this. And I'm either in control or I'm out of control. And the little guy's running around on the screen, and you've got all this busyness in the mind, and the controller can push you from an energetic standpoint to have results, short-term results. And in the long term, it can create resentment because we cannot always be in control, and nor can we always control others. The controller has to be put down so that we can pursue what we innately want to pursue in happiness, joy, and purpose. So we have to put that controller down. Is any of this ringing true for any of you?
This one.
I see some smiles. Fantastic. Thank you. Fourth, we've got the hyperachiever. The hyperachiever makes one dependent on constant performance and the achievement for self-respect and self-validation. In the beginning of this, and we were looking at some of the belief systems, and I shared with you the belief that I had is that women can do anything. The first generation of a woman, could do anything I wanted in life because Helen Reddy could hear me roar. It created me a belief that in order to create validation, I needed to be a hyperachiever. I need to be on constant performance and the ability to get self-respect by other people saying, look what she has done. She can do it all. Bring home the bacon, make the money, do the thing, do all the things. And have a perfect Facebook life, right? The hyperachiever. He's focused on external success often rather than the internal success. And internal success is a criteria for happiness, ultimate happiness and joy. But if we're always running on the look at what can I do to be respected by others, external force, it can create unsustainable workaholic tendencies. Hyper-rational. As we're moving right along, halfway through our cast of characters, the hyper-rational focuses on the rational processing of everything, including relationships. As the picture you see is the king on the chess game of life, calculating decisions before anybody else makes them, including themselves. Be consistent, can be considered as cold and distant and intellectually arrogant, because analyzing everything creates inflexibility. The hyper-vigilant. We see for every hyper-vigilant person that I've ever known, they've come to their max in 2020 because the dangers are everywhere, right? I mean, yeah. So these folks definitely wear masks. And they, I mean, not that we should, I'm just saying in general categorically, we all should wear masks, but these people are right there because they do not want to have any opportunity to become ill, and the dangers are everywhere, and that causes unworthy emotions at times, always looking on the defenses. It reduces the flexibility in relationships and personal life because they're looking for things to go wrong and dangers to come to get them. It creates a lot of stress. The pleaser. This is the cast of characters that wants to please everybody. They want to rescue. They flatter others constantly. It causes them to lose sight of their own needs because they're serving others at a high level. Can be can be considered wonderful people, but they can lose sight of themselves. And a couple things happen here. It can create dependence. We've heard the word codependent. The pleasers can create codependencies where other people become overly dependent on that pleaser because they're always doing for others. And in some of the coaching conversations I've had, I've told people who have grown children to go tell your children to wipe their own ass. Excuse me for the three-letter word, but it's true. Cut the cord, let them wipe their own butts. Because they want to please that portion of their cast of characters.
Yeah.
The other stresses it creates internally is the internal stress that nobody does enough for me too. Because it becomes the woe's me, the do, but who's going to take care of me? Again, these are the things that can stop us from living the ultimate desires of happiness and joy and following through on things that we say we want. The restless.
Yes.
Yes. The restless, busy as a beaver and distracted as a squirrel. The restless part of us wants a great set of excitement on the next activity. Brain doesn't stop, keeps on moving. The treadmill, you can unplug the treadmill and the treadmill's still going on the restless because the wall doesn't realize they unplugged it. It's still going. Other people have a hard time keeping up with that person. And the lie that lies within, no pun intended, is that you're living life to the fullest because you're so busy. Where actually, the internal desire of most human beings is the purpose, joy, and happiness, which stems from not always being busy. In fact, it's usually from not being busy at all, being core centered. The stickler and the representation there of David and the Mona Lisa of perfection. The need for perfection in organization that takes it too far. It makes other people feel anxious and uptight when they're around the person who's the stickler because they definitely feel judged. It zaps people's energy. And that perfectionism is one where, again, nothing is ever perfect. And they become constantly that part of those that's a stickler because frustrated with self and others because perfection can never be obtained. And the last of the cast of characters that prevents us from fulfillment and oftentimes in action is the victim. And the victim is a way of feeling that the life, not that necessarily you are the victim, but that you have no choice in life. And the victim becomes very internally focused on, particularly on painful experiences, and can have kind of a martyr streak. And that you're at the effect of, I can't because, lives in victim. And again, this isn't the fun, sexy stuff. You go to the rah-rah where they're like, you're going to conquer the world. And absolutely, we're going to conquer the world. But we also must understand that there's a piece of us, pieces of us, 10 pieces of us that want us to stay safe and protect us. And they do that in the names of the characters that I've described. So taking a second, if you can look at the cast of characters and see who do you think in your mind that lives between your two ears has maybe prevented you from achieving some things that you want to achieve.
The pleaser's been a problem, and the restless has been a problem for me. Some days I master it, and some days it just slows me up and trips me.
Yeah.
Mine's definitely the stickler. So, because if I do something today, it always can be better by tomorrow. And it's hard to let it go that it's not as good as it could be tomorrow. So,
yeah. So true. So true. We all have them. And we have them in some days, maybe in Beth, and someday your pleaser may be stronger than your restless.
mm-hmm.
And Bob stickler, maybe there's some days you're more stickly than you are on other days. And again, we all have this cast of characters that we are not going to they're not going to go away. They're inherent in every human being. The question becomes, how do we work with them so that we truly achieve what we want and desire?
Mm-hmm.
How do we deal with these saboteurs? And again, as I said, it's just a representation of the judge. That Bob, this one might be your. No, I'm kidding. This is not yours, but it's just the sticklers. But a big one on there. Yeah. And if you have an interest in learning more about the saboteurs and how they show up in your action or inaction, please reach out to us at the Locker Room. We have coaches who are masterful at helping you navigate this journey. So how do I deal with these saboteurs? Well, the first is to understand that the saboteurs live in fear. That's where they come from. That's where they stem from. And as I mentioned earlier, that having an awareness when for Beth, the pleaser and the restless raise their head, and Bob, the stickler, when it raises its head, the question to ask it is, do I see a different way? Is there a different way? Is there something I could look at a little differently? Call it by name. Calling a saboteur by name brings it to the light, and they do not like to be lit up in terms of being exposed because it causes question. If one is in judgment and you question, you say, judge, why are you judging? Does it really matter? And how is that affecting how I'm perceiving that other person? Therefore, how are they receiving me if I'm in judgment?
Right.
My squirrel restlessness does not like when I call up the squirrel and say, Kit, you're being a squirrel, because I like the busyness. However, it does not service me very well when I need to be focused on creating completion in something. Calling it by name and bringing it to my attention. And in doing so, to quell it is to take action. Take a small action. If one is wanting to lose weight and the saboteur raises its head and says, oh, as my husband made peach cobbler last night, oh, there's peach cobbler. I can always start tomorrow. Right? Beautiful saboteur. There's tomorrow. There's always tomorrow. Well, that's not going to get me to my long-term goal. So raising it consciously to my head to say, saboteur, I see you. I see you sabotaging my true desire to lose some weight so that I can be a better horse athlete, and decided to take action and drink a glass of water with lemon in it so it had some flavor. Changed my mind, was able to take the time out. And I'm giving you a very small example of just how micro those behaviors, if you can alter, will create results. Requires conscious awareness and small action. How are we doing? You guys with me? So here we go. How do we, saboteurs can put us in a state, and our state and our story become one and the same. Our beliefs, if you remember, create our thoughts create our emotions create our state. State meaning how we're thinking, where we are. The drive I had towards that peach cobbler was a state. So how do we change that state? What are some of the things that we can do? Well, as I said, they're usually in some form of emotion. So getting in motion. These are the tools of the toolbox to quell the saboteur that motivational speakers don't like to talk about. Getting in motion, physically changing where you are. Currently taping this, I'm in Minnesota. A change of state is to go from inside warmth to outside cold. Beth, you're in Colorado. You know exactly that. Change your place. 20 jumping jacks, if you're capable of doing a jumping jack. Getting up and moving, changing the physiology of your body can change your state. It is not only that you hear folks say, you know, working out is a great thing for you physically. Quite frankly, it's more of a mental game than it is a body game. It's a change of state. And it doesn't have to be any more than breathing and some mobility of movement that can change one's state. Tools of changing state, language. I just got off a coaching call prior to this call, and the language that I heard was can't, shouldn't, wouldn't, couldn't. So the tool out of the toolbox was to remove those words from the vocabulary, be conscious of them, remove them, and replace them with I am statements or I can statements. Take the NT off. Our language is powerful. Powerful. Change our language. Watch our language. Focus. Changing a focus. For us squirrels in the room, that's easy to do. We can change our focus like this. So maybe we need to stay focused. However, changing a focus, sometimes even in the restless mind, is a good thing so we can become refocused, i.e., next line, meditation. Now, meditation has gotten a bad rap because it sounds like a guy with a meditation, which is a wonderful practice.
All frozen. Can't hear you. There now. I couldn't
Now,
hear you.
yeah, I had mute and the mic off just to make sure we didn't have a problem.
Oh.
I'm sure she'll log back in.
Sure. Technical difficulties.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with clients that have that negative? Oh,
I'll answer that in a second. It's Kit.
Okay.
Yes, Kit. You're gone. You're gone. You got to log back in. Just close it up and then come back in. I don't know another way for her to do it except to log out and then log back in. What do I do?
Yeah.
One of the things that I found happens with clients is they'll say, this is what I'm working on. And we'll set accountability pieces, or they'll set accountability pieces for addressing that. And then it won't happen, or it'll only partly happen. And so then we go into, well, what happened? What didn't happen? Why? How do you translate from this is what I want to do to this is how I do things? And as we discuss it, we usually come up with something where they're stuck. And as we discuss and figure out, gee, you're stuck, and why are you stuck, and where are you stuck? Often there's that little nagging voice or that feeling inside that says, you're really, whatever. And so it's an open invitation to talk about a saboteur. Because
Right.
when they're stuck, they have it being very active, and then you can say this is called a saboteur, and it keeps you from going forward and making those changes.
Right.
And what I found is we're usually willing to acknowledge maybe one or two of our saboteurs, but there's some of them we really don't want to acknowledge at all. Because if we acknowledge that one, then we'd really have to take ownership of what we're doing or how we're showing up in the world. And so I tried the evaluation that Kit introduced us to with a client, and it was so powerful because she was able to identify, here's the saboteur. She said, I don't know that that's me. And I said, okay, well, let's work through it. And we finished the analysis. The next day I get a text from her and she says, Beth, I think that's what's been holding me up the worst.
Yeah. The light came on.
The light came on. And she said, I just never realized it. And my comment was, for me to have just said it would not have been as powerful as for her to acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this tool, when somebody's stuck, there's usually a reason that they're stuck. And it's not something trying to be malicious with them. It's usually something internally as a protection.
Right. Yeah.
But
two-edged sword.
Well, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Kit's back. Now you're on mute still.
I am back.
Excellent. So
I
we're
don't
now.
know what happened. I'm so sorry.
You know what? This can be edited.
Okay, good. Well,
It can be edited.
here we are, state and story, and I was on meditate, and it just took me to meditation.
It did. You owned for a moment.
I owned.
You did.
Yes. So the meditation, again, as I was saying, that meditation doesn't have to be, it can be 20 minutes for longer. There's lots of wonderful practices of centering and some music and breathing, but even in a state of, if your state is in frustration and your judges come up, or your stickler is being stickler, and just taking 2 minutes, we all have 2 minutes to breathe and close one's eyes, or even open one eye, depending on how you want to do your meditation. Again, we've got coaches that can support you with this. On visualize, just looking at something really close and paying attention to it and taking the mind off what it is that is creating the saboteur, i.e. cast of characters. Meditation is very, very powerful. Journaling at the day end or day beginning or whatever it is. Journal when the saboteur comes into play. At what created or caused or what moment. If you can identify it, we can talk about removing those triggers to our cast of characters. Give. Living in a moment of giving and gratitude, I put those two together even, one has a hard time, our saboteurs can't even wrestle with giving and gratitude. Again, our mind is not wired. It's two different parts of the brain. The saboteurs on one side, well, they're all over, but the majority on one side, the giving, the graciousness, the harmony, the love and joy is on another. So changing a state by giving, living in a moment of gratitude. And of course, having a consultation with whatever higher being you believe in, universe, God, what have you. Changing the story of the situation. Change the thought. Come from a place of love, grace, and curiosity. Saboteurs do not like love, grace, and curiosity. Coming from a place of giving yourself some, not justifying, but grace to say, I'm going to give, if it's a stickler, I'm going to give that stickler some grace because he really doesn't control. And I'm curious, Mr. Stickler, why I'm so a stickler on this. What does it really matter? and is okay good enough? And be okay. Changing the task and how we approach the task. So, what is this? How does this lead us to truth and transformation? Changing your story, defining your identity. Who are you? Who are you not? Change your story, change your state. So, having truth into who you really are, identifying who you really are. Your saboteurs will not go away, they'll always be there, but one can identify who I am. I am the belief of that leader. Taking back to what you believe, I believed that leadership was an over-encompassing attitude, as an example. Leadership was intention and vision. Identifying who you are and who you decide you will not be will lead you to truth. So, Kit, how does this lead me to change? Again, our transformation through identification, through the tools we discussed, your identity in who you are, and understanding that to transform, we must be able to see our compelling future. What does it look like and what does it mean? If I'm going back to the weight loss, what does it look like and what does it mean for me to be lighter and freer weight-wise? My horse doesn't have to carry as much. My speed will increase. My adrenaline, I am quicker and faster. Just what I want to be, because I feel I like being nimble and energetic. Picking on myself.
Able to leap tall buildings in a single bounce.
You got it. And when we look at our real true identity and our compelling future, it creates an energy within us. It creates that energy. So again, and for sake of time, I know this was scratching the surface of a lot of great stuff, but I will be giving you an assignment. Hang tight, that's what all coaches do. But again, looking at your beliefs and questioning how does that affect your energy and emotion if you show up in fear or do you show up in love. Becoming aware and choosing actions and awareness. Perhaps moving your state, changing your state if you're in a state with a cast of character and looking at the story, changing the story leads you to the truth of your identity and your compelling future. It's a lot of stuff. But when you interface with me on Facebook or social media or one of our other coaches in the locker room, and if you say, I am ready to bring the beast within, we can create an incredible future together. So I encourage you to do so. Homework before we go. So here is the Wheel of Life. And if you need a copy of this, please send me an email. I'm going to share with you a contact screen or some form of contact. I'm happy to do so. Happy to send you notes, whatever you'd like from today's conversation. And take a look at where you are in the Wheel of Life. So if I'm using health and aging, for example, and I say, okay, my current state of health is a 5, and I'd like my state of health to be a 7. Giving myself a reality check of where am I currently and where do I want to go? Identify just a couple of things that you can take action on. Just a couple. So again, if I go back to the weight loss of was not letting that saboteur get me on the peach cobbler. That was an action. Was it an earth-shaking, moving action? No, but it was an action. Walking 10,000 steps, whatever it is, it's going to help you towards whatever. Identifying some small things. I'm not going to go out and run a marathon tomorrow. That would not be something that would fit in the SMART goals. But just taking, what is that action? If we actually sit down and establish where we currently feel we are, where we like to go, and create a few actions in each area of our life, we see incredible transformation of who we are to be who we want and who we desire in our inner hearts and inner beings. The inner being, the beast within, wants that for us. And we've heard the statement, success leaves clues. So if you're curious and you're like, I don't know what it means to get personal development, well, you're here today because that's personal development, let me tell you, on a big scale. Find folks, leaders, mentors, coaches that can share that journey with you, because success leaves clues. And there's lots of people that can give you clues right here in the locker room too. Become that student of life. So again, to unleash that beast within is to just take awareness of where you are, understanding the things that can hold you back from fear, choosing to live in the other side of emotion of love and grace and care of yourself. And we are not perfection. And we all deserve to unleash the beast within. So thank you for your time today. I appreciated being with you. If you'd like to reach out, this is how you can find me, and I'm happy to send you the Wheel of Life contents from today, have you discuss if you would like to explore this a little bit further, have a conversation around that. As I said, I've got a wonderful coaches that can support you in identification and just learning more about how to shift your energies. And all of this comes down to, if you're looking to make more money, you're looking to have greater profits, more experiences, all of those things in life, here's some tools that can support you. So let's talk. And thank you again for your time. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to stop recording.